Welcome back to Trader Talk. I'm your host, Dan Worth, and I'm joined with cricket trader Will Gunn today, ahead of the exciting T20 World Cup in Australia. Will, how are things your end?
Yeah, really good, thanks, mate.
And I can imagine, mate, you're just as excited as I am for this tournament. Let's take no time then and jump straight in. We'll start with the qualifying stage. Looking at Group A then, which is Namibia, Sri Lanka, United Arab Emirates and Netherlands. What can you tell us about this group?
Yeah, so I think this group is kind of, there's three teams really battling for two places. So I'll start with the rank outsiders, and that's the UAE. A new team in the tournament this year. They weren't in it last time. Have done really well to qualify. Their probably team is more suited to spin-friendly conditions, which they're not really going to get in Australia. So I think it might be pretty tough for them. Their main player with the bat is Mohammad Waseem. I think he's ranked in the top 10 T20I players in the world. Hits a long ball and he's going to be key for them. And they've got an exciting young 16-year-old spinner who I'm looking forward to see bowl. And I think that those two are going to have to do quite a lot if UAE have any chance of getting out of the group. And then moving on I would move on to Namibia next. They did really well last time, managing to qualify from the group and get into the Super 12 at the expense of Ireland. They actually beat Ireland and Netherlands. They've got some big name players like David Visa, and they're going to be relying a lot on their middle order to try and score them the runs. They've got some good, exciting bowlers as well, the likes of Ruben Trumpelman and JJ Smith. And I think they've got a decent chance of going through. The other team, which they'll probably be competing with Namibia for the second spot, in my opinion, would be the Netherlands. As I said before, Namibia managed to beat them last time. Their key man with the bat is Max O'Dowd, who hits a long ball. And their bowlers, they've got a few players who people may recognise from the Blast, like Freddie Klassen and Tim van der Gooten. They're more of an all-round team rather than having one or two really strong players. So they're going to need to do well as a team rather than just one player standing out. And then finally in Group A, who I think should win the group at a canter, are Sri Lanka. They won the Asia Cup earlier this year, so they've proved already that they're more than capable of beating not just the likes of Namibia and Netherlands and some of the lesser-known nations, but also the likes of India, Pakistan. So they're really going to be one to watch, and I think they should really easily get through the group. Their main player is Wanindu Hasaranga, who's been exciting in all kinds of cricket, the IPL, and of course, as mentioned, the Asia Cup. And I think, they should win the group easily, and it's just going to be who manages to get through with them out of Namibia and the Netherlands.
Yeah, and it sounds like it could be quite hotly contested then between Namibia and the Netherlands. So although Sri Lanka have the potential to run away with it, there still will be some interesting cricket there. So it's something to look forward to, at least before we get too excited about the Super 12. Moving on then to Group B, we've got Ireland and Scotland, Zimbabwe and West Indies. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so kind of along the same format as before, I'm probably going to go with the team which I expect to finish fourth in the group first, which would be Scotland. Now, I think they've got more of a chance than the UAE do in Group A, but I still think they're comfortably behind the other three teams in the group. In a similar sense to Namibia, they're going to be heavily reliant on their middle order to be the engine for them. Going to need lots of runs from the likes of Berrington and McLeod. And previously, they've heavily relied on Mark Watt with the ball. I'm not sure that Australia is going to favour him really that much. So it's going to be a chance for the other bowlers to maybe step up and try and help him out, because he's been the one which has been holding their bowling attack together in previous tournaments and matches. And then again, similarly, I think there's going to be two teams which are kind of battling for that second spot. So the first one would be Ireland. They'll definitely be hoping to go better than last time, where they failed to make it out of the group stage. Got some big name players, the likes of Paul Sterling is going to be absolutely essential for them. And also they're going to be quite reliant with the ball on Josh Little to try and get some breakthroughs early on. He had a great end to the 100 when he came in. And he's just been a great wicket taker for them at the top and at the death. they're going to need him to try and blast away the top orders of the other teams, and then they're going to need Sterling to score some runs. But I think they've got a decent chance of going through. Kind of competing with them is going to be Zimbabwe. I really like Zimbabwe's chances. They've had some decent results in recent times. The return to form of Sikandar Raza has been massive for them. So that's helped them out. They're also a team which kind of, rather than relying on one or two players, they spread the runs out a little bit. They've got a really good middle order, the likes of Ryan Burl, Craig Irvine, and a few others, which can help them to put some big scores on the board. It's just going to be whether or not their bowling attack can stay with them, as they've been known to concede a few big scores over the last few years. So we'll have to look out for that. And then finally, the final team in that group is the West Indies, which will be very weird for a lot of people to see the West Indies having to go through what is essentially a qualifying group to get into the main tournament. But it kind of just shows how they've fallen over the past few years. The likes of Pollard and Russell and Narine no longer playing for them. They've got a new batch of T20 players which they've been working with and who have been improving. So I expect them to easily get through the group stage. Whether it's first or second, I'm not too sure, but I would think that they'd easily get through, hitting loads of sixes along the way. People like Evan Lewis, if he makes it into the team, are going to be key for them. And then with the ball, it's going to be Alzari Joseph trying to continue his amazing CPL form, where he took bundles of wickets. So it's going to be those two, which will be my ones to watch for the West Indies.
Very nice, thank you. And you mentioned it there. One market that I was quite interested in when I was looking earlier is Sporting Index's player sixes across the tournament, and I think Evan Lewis is actually top of that. I guess the qualifying stage is the perfect platform for him to just be hitting sixes left, right, and centre, so he could get off to a flyer there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with those player total tournament sixes, the group stage as well as the main tournament counts. So if I'm thinking that the West Indies are very likely to go through, they're going to play 3 games in the group stage and then more games in the main tournament. So that will be why you're seeing the likes of Lewis, Pooran and Mayers predicted to hit more sixes across the tournament than people like Josh Butler and Rohit Sharma. And as well, the West Indies have just been known for, over the past a long time now, 5-10 years, as just six hitting monsters. They just breed them to hit sixes over there. So it'll certainly be fun watching them throughout the tournament, and that could be an interesting market to look at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's quite nicely wrapped up the qualifying stage then. As you've mentioned, a lot of exciting cricket to kind of whet our appetite before the Super 12. Jumping straight into the Super 12 then, we'll look at Group A. We'll start with Afghanistan. Who are the danger men there, or what do you expect from those guys?
Yeah, so Afghanistan have done really well to kind of make it into this main stage without having to go through the qualifying. I think they probably are going to struggle a little bit. They are a slightly aging team. They've had quite a few of their kind of stalwarts, the likes of Mohammed Nabi, who have been playing, Zazai, and a couple of others who have been playing for quite a few years now, who are potentially on the decline. Still got some world-class players. Rashid Khan is always going to do well wherever he goes. And he's clearly going to be the danger man for them with the ball, and can also smash some runs at the end. Mujibur Rahman as well, who's been around the circuit playing T20 leagues. He's also going to be key. My main concern with them is whether or not they're going to be able to score enough runs against some of the better bowling attacks in the competition. But yeah, a market that you could look at there is Rashid Khan total tournament wickets. We've got that at 7.5, 7.8. So we're expecting him to take somewhere between 7 and 8 wickets throughout the tournament. And if you think that teams are going to have to try and go after him and try and smash him, then he could take a lot more than 7 or 8 wickets. But I mean, I would personally be looking at those markets and thinking that teams were going to be able to score plenty of runs against the other bowlers. So maybe they don't need to attack Rashid as much, which he's kind of found in some of the franchise cricket that he's played. So it might be a good look there for a sell on that market.
Nice, thanks for that. I mean, either way, it's going to be super exciting. And I'm just looking forward to seeing him bowl. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on then to last time out's winners, Australia. I think they're 11-4 to repeat their heroics. What do you make of them, and who should we be watching out for?
Yeah, so Australia are favourites for the tournament, and the fact that they're the holders and they're the hosts, I think it's very, very hard to argue with that being the case. At the time of recording this, they have just lost to England in a World Cup warm-up game, which is a small concern maybe, but England are also a very good side. So these things can happen. I guess the exciting player with Australia that not so many people will know is Tim David, who's kind of broken onto the scene in the franchise circuit over the last few years. He's an absolute giant and hits a really long ball. He's going to bat in the middle order for them. And I think he's going to be pretty important in terms of closing out innings for them. So after the top order has kind of set a platform, it's going to be up to him to either come in at the end and finish off the innings and get them to a massive score, or there's going to be times where he's going to have to come in and try and score at 12, 13 and over from the go. And as a relatively inexperienced player at this level, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time analysing their kind of batting lineup, and was actually been looking at Sporting Index's top Aussie batsman for the tournament. And I mean, quite rightly so, Warner's favourite, but I quite like Finch here at 4-1. I appreciate he's not in the best of form, but I think when he gets the bat swing, he can be up there with the best. He's averaging like 36 in T20 eyes, I think. So I'd be looking to get involved in a little bit of that 4-1 there, I think.
Yeah, he's been on a dreadful run of form over the last few years, so it's going to be whether or not he can step up and try and rediscover that form that he'd shown over the last few years.
Yeah, most definitely, Mayo, and what a stage to do it at if he can. Moving on to England then, they're 3-1 with Sporting Index to win the tournament. I personally think that's pretty good value, and as you've already discussed, they've won the first two warm-ups against Australia and are looking in fine form. So I think I'll be getting involved in that. What do you make of their chances?
Yeah, I think I agree with you in the sense that they're rightful second favourites. To me, there's been a lot of money coming for England. I think 4 or 5 weeks ago, England were probably 4-1 plus, and now they've been getting backs all the way down. And those 2 wins against Australia have only strengthened that. I mean, one main concern I have is around Ben Stokes. My opinion is he's in the team kind of on name rather than anything else. I think he's a big issue at 4. He's just not able to go quickly from the start, and his bowling's not been fantastic either. So I don't know. There's an issue there, and there's a small issue with me for me around Adil Rashid. I know these conditions aren't probably where he would like to be bowling, but as the main spinner, we'd like some kind of control from him, and he's not really been doing that in recent times. But I mean, there's lots to be positive about as well. Mark Wood's going to be a fantastic asset if he can stay fit for the whole tournament, so fingers crossed for that. And having Alex Hales back in the setup to complement Josh Butler is going to be very interesting, and should be some fireworks at the top of the order.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I think that opening partnership is frightening, really. The things that they could achieve together, it just could be amazing. And you mentioned Wood there, but one person you didn't mention was Topley, who I think is favourite for the top England bowler. I think around 11-4. He seems to be having quite a big impact recently, and I mean, long may it continue, but it definitely could out in Australia.
Yeah, no, Topley's been absolutely fantastic since he's managed to kind of cement his place in the team and put a run of games together, because he's had some issues with injuries in the past, but now he's managed to stay fit, and he's probably the first bowler on the team sheet at the moment. So he's going to be vital for England.
Yeah, no, nicely put. So moving on then to last time out's losing semi-finalists New Zealand. They kind of make up Group A. What do you expect from them?
Yeah, as seems to happen in lots of tournaments at the minute, New Zealand are kind of going into it as dark horses. No one's really been speaking about them. Everyone's just kind of assuming that it's going to be England and Australia which get through from the group. which I think is fair. I think there is a pretty big gap between Australia, England, and then New Zealand. But they've still got some exciting players. It looks like they're going to go with young Finn Allen at the top of the order, who is a massive hitter. He's going to go really hard from ball one, and with Devon Conway anchoring the innings at the other end, who's been in fine form, it should be interesting to see how they go. They've got Glenn Phillips in the middle order as well, who can hit an absolutely massive ball. So yeah, I mean, there's lots to be excited about there, but I think price-wise, they're rightfully third in for the group.
Yeah, I quite like New Zealand, but you're right. The question is, can they do enough to get ahead of England and Australia? The answer is probably no, but they do like to fly under the radar. And I guess if they get off to a flying start, that there could be no stopping them, but one to watch for sure. Very nice. And that rounds up Group A. So moving on to the other half of the Super 12, start off with Bangladesh. Yeah, what are your thoughts with those guys?
Yeah, so Bangladesh, another one who some people might think is a bit surprising that they've made it straight through into the Super 12s. I also think that because I really don't hold much hope for Bangladesh's chances at all. They've been messing around with their team for the last few years. They don't really know what their strongest team is. In the warm-up games that have been happening, they're not really sure what to do with their prize asset in Shakib Al Hassan. He's been batting as low as 7 and as high as 3. They've been messing around with playing one of their kind of all-rounder bowlers, Mahedi Mahassan Miraz. He was opening the batting for them in some of the recent games. So nobody's really quite sure what the first choice 11 is going to be. And I think that's going to hold them back massively. They're going to be very, very reliant on Mustafizur Rahman, who's been a stalwart for them over the last few years. Been around, played in the IPL, he's played in all sorts of franchise leagues. So he's going to have to bowl really well if they're going to have any chance of causing a few upsets.
Yeah, it's quite a tall order for them to kind of get anywhere near the semi-finals, but yeah, we'll see how they go. Moving on to another of the tournament favourites then, with India, do you think they justify being sort of in the top 3 in the market?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're the closest to England and Australia. Their chances have been massively hurt by the injury to Jasprit Bumrah. So that was a big blow to them. And they're going to be heavily reliant on Arshdeep Singh making the step up. Now, he's still relatively inexperienced at international level, although he has done well when he's played for India. It's going to be interesting to see whether he can do it when it counts in a big knockout game or at the end of the group stage when they need a win and he needs to hold his nerve. Whether or not he can do that is going to be a key thing for them. I guess the interesting player really for India is the rise of Suryakuma Yadav. He's just been absolutely incredible over the last few years. He's now in the top. I think he might be either 2nd or 3rd ranked in T20 Batsman. And it just seems like every time he comes to the crease at the minute that there's going to be runs flowing from that bat. So they're going to need him to perform. They're going to need the openers. And of course, Virat Kohli as well. There's not been many people talking about him. So there's plenty of firepower there. It's just whether or not their bowling attack can hold it together without the glue that was Bumrah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, another interesting one. I guess you kind of assume that they get through this side pretty easily, but looking further into the semis and finals, I'm not quite sure if they are good enough to go all the way. But I mean, I'm happy to be proved wrong. Okay, next up then is Pakistan. What do you make of their chances?
Yeah, so Pakistan are a very interesting side. They are probably the most top-heavy batting lineup I've ever seen. Babar and Rizwan are just 2 incredible players. But with them being so good, it's kind of been a bit of a detriment to their chances as a team sometimes. Because as tournaments go on, their middle order have not really been batting that much. They've not really had much time at the crease. And to me, it just seems like that if Babar and Rizwan don't score runs, like if one of them doesn't go on and get 60 or 70 or something, or potentially even both of them score 50, then they really struggle to win games. I do like what they seem to be doing with batting Shadab Khan up at number 4. He's done it in the Pakistan Super League successfully. And I think it just gives them a little bit of a longer batting lineup with him coming in earlier. So that's one thing they've done, which hopefully will help them out. Bowling wise, they've got some quality bowlers like Shaheen Afridi's been injured recently, but he's going to be back for the start of the tournament. And Harris Ralph, his record in Australia on the bouncy pitches has been incredible. So
yeah, so you kind of mentioned there lots of potential for Pakistan. One thing I wanted to clarify actually on the spread side of things, you know, you mentioned Babar Azam and what he's capable of. He appears to be at the top of the tournament runs market, and I'm sure a lot of us are expecting him to hit quite a few of them. But right down the bottom for the tournament sixes market, around the 4 mark across the tournament, which seems incredibly low. How do you guys get there?
Yeah, so Babar's right, as you say, he's right near the top of the tournament runs market because he's just an absolute machine at scoring runs. But historically, going back and looking over his stats, he just really doesn't hit that many sixes at all. I think batting at the top of the order and batting in the power play, he's such an elegant player that he can just control the ball along the floor, and he'll tend to hit lots of 4s and not many 6s. So that might be why you're seeing Babar low down on the total 6s market, but high up on the total runs market.
Fair enough, that makes sense. Thanks for clearing that up. So last but not least then, South Africa. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so I really like South Africa's chances, especially versus their price in the market. The price-wise, they're kind of closer towards New Zealand and Pakistan than they are towards India, and I'd probably have them closer towards India in terms of how successful they can be in the group. As the case with a few teams, they aren't without holes in their lineups. I think there's a massive issue around their captain, Temba Bavuma. He recently didn't even get picked up in their domestic T20 draft, which kind of shows where he's at and how he's thought of as a player, but yet he's still captain of the national side. So they're going to need him to do a lot better than he's done over his career and in recent times. But they've got so much firepower elsewhere. They've got Riley Rousseau, who's come back into the team, who's I think is going to be a massive boost for them. And then they've got the exciting Tristan Stubbs, who's really burst onto the scene and did well in the IPL. And kind of similar type of career path to Tim David for Australia. He's going to come in 5 or 6, and it's going to be his job to finish off the innings or get them to a big score. I really like their chances. I think de Kock has done it all around the world. I really like their bowling attack. They've got Kagiso Rabada and Amrit Nortje alongside some quality spinners. So they look quite well-rounded to me. And if they can kind of solve the Temba Bavuma problem, I think they've got a real chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with you. And as we've kind of alluded to here, this side of the draw is wide open, really. So there is absolutely no reason why they can't get through that. Because even if they don't match India, they can go through as runners-up and have a crack at the knockout. So, yeah, certainly one to watch and could be very interesting, especially, again, if they get some runs under their belt and get off to a flyer. Yeah, there could be no stopping them. Moving on then, I just want to get your thoughts. If we forget about the market for a minute, I think it's quite clear that you like South Africa, but who would you have? Who would be your top pick to win the outright?
So I think if prices did not matter and I was just putting my neck on the line and for a team to win it, it's very, very hard to look past Australia at home. I know that's very boring going with the tournament favourites. But I think they are rightful favourites, and I think there's gonna have to be something go seriously wrong for them to not get through to the semi-finals, and then I think they're just going to have too much firepower in the middle, and the bowling's just going to be too good for the other teams, and there'll be a little bit of home crowd there as well. I'm not sure that the Australian crowd are maybe quite as vociferous as it would be over here, but I think that you still have to count that in a little bit. And I think, them being at home, I think they will win. I do think that South Africa, irrelevant of the price, I do think that they've got a decent chance of going through. So if it ends up being an Australia-South Africa semi-final, I think that the winner of that match will go on to win the tournament.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm a bit of a patriot. I can only see England. Even at 3-1, I still think they've got the quality that they've proven in the last week or so that they're in the right form. I think
maybe I'm just hedging my bets a bit and don't want to be left disappointed. So I'm kind of downplaying England's chances. I don't know.
I think you could probably argue that's quite shrewd. So one last question I wanted to ask you actually on one of the spread betting markets is the tournament total sixes. It's in for around 490, which I think will beat the 2021 tournament's total, which saw 109 batsmen hit a six. Can you explain to me how you kind of land on that 490 figure?
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of work that goes into that. It's not just the teams that are playing and the players that are playing. There's lots of research has gone into the grounds that they're playing at. So compared to the tournament last year, there was a smaller number of grounds used compared to this year. And the average sixes at those grounds compared to the grounds for this year's tournament are completely different. And then when we're factoring in the fact that the West Indies are playing in the group stage of the tournament against some of the lesser nations, they're the biggest six hitting nation. So they're going to be hitting a lot of sixes in those games, and then also quite possibly carrying that on when they go into the tournament itself properly. And the same could be said for Sri Lanka there as well. So yeah, although there are some big grounds like the MCG, there's also some small grounds like Hobart and Geelong, and that's how we get there. We're expecting the pitches to be a lot better, a lot flatter than they were for last year's tournament. So we're expecting more runs, more sixes, more fours, more fireworks, really.
Yeah, I think you're right there. More fireworks. That 490 figure does suggest that the tournament's going to be a bit of a spectacle. So, yeah, all signs are pointing towards it being super excited and something to look forward to. So before I let you go then quickly, I wanted to quickly chat about the reduced spreads on the supremacy and the runs markets. So if I'm not mistaken, Sporting Index will be reducing the spread size from 8 to 4 on the supremacy markets and from 6 to 3 on the runs markets.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll be halving our spreads, and that's going to be throughout the tournament for every game. From the moment we go down with prices till the end of the match, those will be halved. So hopefully that encourages some people to come and have a bet on those markets. Like I was saying, we're expecting there to be some good pitches, so there might be some good opportunities for buying runs as the tournament goes on. And if you're getting a slightly better price than you would have normally, then why not?
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like a great offer there. So I'm sure people at home will be interested to find out more. Okay, then, Will, I think that concludes our chat. Thanks very much for your time. Everyone at home, I hope you enjoy the tournament. And I must just remind you, if you are spread betting or placing fixed odds bets with us, please do so responsibly. But most of all, enjoy the tournament. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching and thanks for joining us, Will.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks.